So at the moment, I have to say very sadly that the world is not really quite prepared for dementia. Dementia is one of the most important diseases of our century. Currently, we estimate there is about 50 million people living with dementia, and by 2030, that will be probably 152 million. We know that it's currently a $1 trillion disease. This is how much it costs to economies, and that about every 3 seconds someone in the world develops dementia. And these figures are all taken from Alzheimer's Disease International 2015 World Alzheimer Report, in case your audience would like to get more familiar with that. So it is a very sad thing that dementia is here to stay. And as we know at the moment, although we are hoping in a disease-modifying therapy, there is none. In certain countries, like for example the United Kingdom, dementia is already the biggest killer, unfortunately. And dementia comes with a number and a range of issues, from difficulties in diagnosing it, not because it's difficult, but because often there is lack of specialism. Our survey in 2019, in the World Alzheimer's Report in 2019, showed that 62% of healthcare practitioners, that's doctors and nurses, still believe that dementia is caused by normal aging. So there is still a lot of ignorance out there about the fact that dementia is actually a neurocognitive disorder, a disease. So the fact that we are not getting through to healthcare practitioners, that this is something they have to look for and diagnose or refer for diagnosis, it's still a massive issue. Combined to that, there is the problem that a lot of lower and middle income countries, but actually also some higher income countries, governments are in denial about the spread of dementia in their country and don't take protective action. So to cut to the chase, in 2017, the World Health Organization suggested that all nations should adopt a global dementia action plan, and that was adopted in May 2017. The target is that there will be 145 countries with a dementia plan or a strategy by 2025. At the moment, unfortunately, we are still under 40 approved plans and strategies. And with that in mind, and thinking that there's only 5 years to go, and considering the global emergency that we are facing now with COVID, and therefore probably the lack of resources in the future, we will then see that in 5 years it's going to be very unlikely that there's going to be an acceleration in the adoption of dementia strategies or action plans. Indeed, if we're going to talk about preparedness in certain countries, I'm thinking about France, for example, a dementia standalone plan, which is what we always advocate for, has now been subsumed under a broader neurocognitive strategy. And that is not necessarily what we are after. We want dementia plans to be standalone and properly funded, because the challenges that dementia poses to a long-term care are huge. And I should add here that in the civil sector where I come from, we use often Alzheimer's and dementia interchangeably. That may sound strange to some of your audience, but it's kind of simpler for us to deal about it that way, given the challenges that there are for people even to understand what dementia or Alzheimer's are. It seems to be the simplest way to get through to our audience. So apologies to those of you that may find this terminology a little bit unusual. We are about to publish the Dementia Readiness Index again. We have already published 2 of these indexes on a global scale. This year is going to focus on 30 world cities and is going to analyze in great depth these world cities' preparedness. We have also seen, I think, with the COVID pandemic, how cities have been the first hit. It's very important we start focusing on urban areas and its readiness to to cope with what is happening. We know that there are very good social care systems in some countries of the world, but even in those countries, at Alzheimer's Disease International, we often find that people with dementia and their families are still complaining of lack of services. And just to remind your audience, Alzheimer's Disease International was founded in 1984. We represent 102 Alzheimer's associations in as many nations. So there's 102 nations in our network.